All right, man. We're live. We're recording. Okay, so we're gonna start talking probably in the next few videos about comparing animal protein to plant protein. Are there differences? And I think it will open up an interesting topic in relation to let's close our eyes. Let's use our imagination and imagine that yes, we indeed are going completely plant-based in the future. All animal livestock has been abolished. How would that look like? What are the logistics of switching to that kind of future? Looking at nutrients, looking at we can mention some stuff about the environment, and we can definitely look at the quality of protein. This came up in the debate, right, JD? That okay, well, if we remove all livestock, then we'll barely need to be producing any soy because the majority of the soy is going to the livestock. We looked a little bit deeper, and I think anybody who's not a vegan would right away say, okay, we're removing that protein source. What are we replacing it with? And with whatever we're replacing it with, how can you say that will obviously it's plant protein? How can they say that, yeah, by doing that, we're going to reduce tons of the crop growing? That really doesn't make any sense. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, vegans do not think through things. This is not a group of very responsible individuals.
Uh-huh.
They will tell half truths, and I've had vegans in my comment section lately actually confessing to being willfully ignorant because they actually said, one of them actually said to me, I would rather be willfully ignorant than a hypocrite.
Okay.
So this is someone who's willing to m- make an effort, go out of his way not to learn the specifics, not to look any deeper than just the very surface layers of the issues regarding the nutrients that would be lacking in a vegan world.
Yeah. Okay. There is here's an example. This was the previous video, but maybe I can screen share and kind of speed through this quickly because when we do get to the study that you wanted to show, it's long. Hopefully, I read it once and you read it once, so maybe we'll be able to kind of skip through a little bit and remember where the main points are. All right, stop screen share. You see that screen okay?
Yes.
All right. So this is animal and plant protein. Plant-based protein rich foods are not metabolically equivalent, the study finds. So dietary proteins needed to supply essential amino acids for the synthesis of everything from living cells to um, um, hormones, enzymes, and muscle. Thus, protein-rich quantity and quality are both essential for good health. So the between 2020 and 2025, the dietary guidelines published an ounce equivalency recommendation to help consumers meet the protein requirements with a variety of protein foods. For example, they presented a variety of one of ounce equivalents in protein rich foods. So 1 ounce of meat is equivalent to 1 cooked egg, to a quarter cup of red kidney beans, to 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, 2 ounces tofu, and half an ounce of mixed nuts. However, the dietary guidelines do not currently address the issue of differences in protein quality associated with varied food sources. In general, animal proteins have a higher protein digestibility and a better essential amino acid profile relative to dietary requirements. So it surpasses the dietary requirements. These measures of protein quality indicate that animal protein can more readily provide the daily requirement of essential amino acids than plant protein. So a new manuscript recently published in the Journal of Nutrition investigated the physiological response to various ounce equivalents of protein food and found that the consumption of ounce equivalent of animal protein food sources resulted in a greater gain in whole body net protein balance above baseline than the ounce equivalent of plant-based protein sources. It's almost done. Here. So the University of Arkansas and colleagues randomly assigned, very small, only 56 people here in the study. They were set in groups. So you had the 2 ounce cooked beef sirloin group, the pork loin, the egg group, the red kidney bean, the peanut butter, tofu, and then the mixed nuts. So each of these were separate categories. Prior to the onset of the study, the participants followed a 3-day dietary weight maintenance, and the participants, their net whole body protein balance was assessed using a stable isotope tracer infusion protocol, and the changes from baseline following the consumption of different protein food sources was compared with the baseline value for that individual. So overall, investigators found that animal-based protein food sources elicit a greater anabolic or a greater building block response. Anabolic is building. So a greater anabolic response than plant-based protein food sources. Whole body protein balance increased more in the beef, pork, eggs group than all of the groups consuming plant-based protein food sources. So protein synthesis increases more in the beef group than in the groups consuming plant protein foods, kidney beans, all the plant ones. So the magnitude of the whole body net balance response was correlated with the essential amino acid content of the protein food source, and the researchers, they concluded that ounce equivalents of protein food sources as expressed in the dietary guidelines are not metabolically equivalent in terms of either the anabolic response or the caloric value of this should be considered as the dietary guidelines develop approaches to establish healthy eating patterns. And conclusion, this is just like an excerpt from the study. The research illustrates that animal-based protein foods, we went through the categories, okay, cannot be considered to be equivalent or a substitute for each other. When developing healthy dietary patterns, given their unique physiological effects, while it's well established that animal proteins can more readily provide essential amino acids than plant protein foods, our study also indicates that eating animal protein may lead to increased protein synthesis, which has been shown to have benefits such as improved satiety and lean muscle mass maintenance. You have anything to come to mind? Based some comments on what we just read.
Well, yeah, there's lots of reasons why this is an important issue, and one of them is the fact that human beings are designed to move around. We're designed to be able to do physical activities. Some of them are work, some of them are play, but we're supposed to be able to enjoy lots of athletic endeavors. And with a lack of muscle mass comes a lack of strength. And with a lack of strength comes a lack of physical activity. It limits your list of things that you're able to do. You know, in a vegan world, might be just that, the best we could do is maybe go for a walk or maybe go for a bicycle ride. But something like lacrosse or rugby or football or soccer, these activities could very easily become, uh, beyond the scope of what we could actually perform because of the constant catabolic nature of a vegan diet. You don't see most of the vegans that you see out there are that have been vegan for a while are skinny. They don't have much muscle mass at all. Take a look at David
Like,
Rams. His arms are toothpicks.
who is
Uh,
this? Say the name again.
David Rams.
I'm going to check that. He's on YouTube.
Yeah, he and Chris Hines did a video on me recently.
Let me see. David Hines.
No, Chris Hines and David Rams.
So Chris.
While you're looking that up, I'll go ahead and continue. The other issue.
How is Hines spelt? Just Hines?
Yeah, it's his channel is. If you're trying to find it, Chris Hines, one word, all lowercase, and then HTF.
So I'm trying to look at on Google just to go to images, but maybe I should. Here's another one. Santos Bonacci. My share screen. I mean, we could finish off by. I mean, there's Dr. Greger, who's literally, so-called expert writing books on veganism and optimal health and how not to die. Here's an example. So you'll see that they're very frail. See here? Look at his arms, stick arms, pushing veganism. Then we have obviously Dr. Greger. See the pictures where you can see maybe his arms. They probably started taking these down. Well, here at least you see the shoulder. Look, no sarcopenia, definitely. And there's one in this specific one. There's another picture where he's quite bloated.
Mm-hmm.
Has he been taking off some of his picture? Yeah. See the arms, stick arms here. I've had many pictures of him. They might have cleaned out some of his pictures.
Probably scrubbed them, yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Greger. We have Dr. McDougall. What's his name? John McDougall?
I don't remember his first name.
McDougall. He was basically losing his mind towards the end, his last before he retired.
He looks like he's turned into a golem character.
Yeah.
Which veganism tends to do to people.
And the important thing is that, and the study that you had sent today is that as we age, we become less and less efficient at protein synthesis, at muscle development, and probably absorption, even just through the gut. So that's something that happens normally as the population grows, and
or as the population ages.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, exactly. As the population ages, older people actually should increase their protein intake because they're less efficient and less efficient. And how are we going to do this with plant protein? We'll hold back as we haven't really gone too much in depth about the plant proteins, but Mick the vegan, and not to put down Jeffrey. Jeffrey also is quite. He was
muscle deficient.
Yeah, he even said when he did keto, he became very muscular just by adding more animal food. Hard to find him, but yeah, here. I mean, he's younger. Obviously, he's not in full-blown sarcopenia or anything like that. Does this picture show up? Anyways, again, poor shoulder development.
There, if you look down below the screen on the StreamYard page, you'll see that I'm trying to share a
I see it.
A page there.
Here you go.
So one of the reasons that another reason other than just us being able to enjoy physical activity is that for every age group and all 51 genders, an increase in muscle mass is across the board associated with much lower rates of all-cause mortality.
Mm-hmm.
So the more muscle mass you've got, then the lower your mortality risk. Here it says, does low muscle mass all cause mortality? Low muscle mass evaluated by the orthopometric measurements increase the all-cause mortality risk in older community-dwelling adults, but not for cancer and CVD mortality. So it's so funny pulling these up because they always throw some propaganda in there, don't they? It increases all-cause mortality, and then they turn around and say, "Oh, except for cancer." And well, you can muscle mass and cancer survival. The importance. You see, they just lied in that propaganda before, and you'll see right here that the more muscle mass you have going into any kind of cancer situation, the higher your survival rate will be.
Yeah. There's also, I'll let you finish this, sir.
I'm trying to get down to the conclusions.
Yeah.
Implications. We argue that the association of higher BMI with lower mortality among cancer patients should be termed a BMI paradox. So what they're doing is they brought this BMI into the picture, which muddies the waters. In other words, someone who lifts weights, has a lot of muscle mass, is likely to be higher on the BMI. The BMI scale is flawed because it doesn't account for low body fat individuals who carry a lot of muscle. And so they're calling this the BMI paradox, saying people with a high BMI have a higher chance of surviving cancer. But the truth is that, like right here it says it, muscle, an important predictor of mortality, is also not accurately measured by BMI. So the more muscle mass you have in general, then the less chance of death you have overall from all-cause mortality. And there's study after study. A lot of the studies are concerned for older adults, but but there's been lots of younger adults studies that prove the same thing. So the vegans, I think, would argue that we don't need muscle mass. There's no reason for us to be, pursuing muscle, when actually just the opposite, because as human beings, we should be able to enjoy a very active, strenuous lifestyle if that's what we choose to do. Just because vegans like to sit on their butts
Mhm.
and complain about the conist doesn't mean that we all want to sit around and try to sow
Yeah.
malice in the world from our couch. We want to go out and we want to have fun with our family. We want to be able to go mountain climbing. We want to be able to, if we choose to, we want to be able to go do the really strenuous activities that humans have been engaged in for
Mhm.
thousands of years. So, this idea that vegans have that, oh well, you don't need that much muscle, you don't need the animal protein because humans don't need that much muscle. Or there's two other things they could say here. One would be, well, what do you mean gorillas eat plants only, and look how muscular they are, when they have a functioning syncytium, a strikingly
Mhm.
different digestive system than human beings. They can actually extract and absorb, and their
Create fatty
bodies,
acid.
they can be very anabolic eating just leaves. So completely different biochemistry, human physiology with a gorilla versus a human being. And then the other thing they would do is they might point at some of the grotesque bodybuilders that claim to be vegan. And number one, none of those bodybuilders can actually prove that they're on a vegan diet. And number
Mhm.
two, the ones that I've looked at certainly look like they're on PEDs. So they're very likely to be taking some type of steroid, and they look like hell. The ones that you can tell the ones that are at least heavily plant based, because the skin on their face looks like these rolls of crepe paper. It's just
Yeah.
a very
Well, John
unhealthy look.
Venus, right? John Venus, he the video I looked at yesterday, he even said, he goes, and like, think of it, like, he's not in his 20s anymore, right? He's I don't think. Anyways, the point is that he built all his muscle, I believe, prior to being vegan, then somewhat, let's say, maintained some muscle, a decent amount of muscle. And but now that he's back and he's eating meat now, he said that the amount of advancement that he made in such a very short period, um, bursting through a plateau, and new records in his athletic training, is uncomparable.
Yeah.
So which shows that, like, it's like, okay, we're always talking about, are we talking about existing while we scrape through the bare minimum and provide deficiencies, or are we offering optimal, thriving levels of food, with nutrient levels, absorption, bioavailability, and stuff like that. What one over here?
This is one of
Go
the
ahead.
reasons. It's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why professional vegan influencers like Joey Carbstrong make
Mhm.
video after video after video, hammering home the idea that veganism is not about health. Veganism is not about health.
Yeah.
It's about the animals, and of course the benefit of for the animals has been debunked, because veganism, just like those who are omnivores, vegans rely upon the huge factory monocropping farms that are causing oceanic dead zones and shooting deer in the face for wandering too close to the crops. Um, so the benefit to the animals has been completely debunked, and so they when that when that gets debunked, then they'll try to claim, well, it's healthier, and
Mhm.
then you've got Joey Carbstrong sitting there repeating over and over that it's not about health, it's about the animals. So even the vegan cult can't all get on the same page. In fact, all of the
Mhm.
doctors, each doctor will tell you a different story on what kind of supplement regimen you need to be on if you're vegan. None of them will say to be supplement free, but everyone's got a different take. Every doctor out there who promotes veganism has a completely different take on what supplements are going to be required on that diet.
Mhm. Yeah. Here's medical news today. So, what's the difference between animal and plant protein? It's going to go through here and basically talk about the essential proteins, what a complete protein is. All animal food has complete protein, meaning that they have inadequate amounts every single amino acid, so that when you eat that and they're broken down to amino acids, your body has every single type of amino acid to create protein synthesis. Having the right balance of amino acids can build muscles and help the body to recover from exercise quickly. Understanding the difference between plant and animal proteins is important. When we look here, it says one of the main differences between the plant and animal protein is the amino acid content. So amino acids, which are the building blocks for protein, when the body digests protein in food, it breaks it back down into the amino acids. And the body may need different types of amino acids at different times to build different things. Many people believe that a diet should include complete sources of protein, which contain all of the 9 essential amino acids. Some animal products are complete, and okay, so fish, eggs, dairy, beef, chicken. Okay, so we get the point. All animal food has complete protein. But most plant-based proteins are incomplete, which means that
Wait,
they're
hold
missing.
on, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
All all plant-based proteins are incomplete. Now,
Yeah,
something like
well,
some, yeah, yeah, no, you
I
have to
agree.
be completely upfront, honest about this. And this is
Yeah,
like with soybeans. Soybean has trace amounts
yeah,
of methionine, which
yeah.
is an essential amino acid. Now, trying to say that that's complete because it's got trace amounts, tiny bits of that essential amino acids, but
Mhm.
nowhere near what's required. And so the statement that most
Yeah,
plants are incomplete is false.
well,
All plant protein
yeah.
sources are incomplete.
It's somewhere along the way it was going to say that. Um, I had mentioned in my because I recorded one already today, and that's what I said. I said having a scant amount in soy. So technically, you say there's some of every single one. Um, is as you just mentioned, but I had mentioned it today also is very deceptive.
Yeah, it
Um,
would be like if I was selling shoes to the NCAA or let's say to the NFL to provide shoes to all the teams. And I told them, I've got left. It's a complete collection. It's left shoes, right shoes, all sizes.
mhm,
And then I send the team that I get on contract with the NFL. I send them the crates and crates of shoes. They open them up, and there's thousands and thousands of left shoes, and
yeah.
only two right shoes. And they say, "Wait, this is not complete." Well, there's left and right shoes there. Well,
Yeah,
we're missing right shoes for most of our players. This is not a
yeah,
complete set. Well, there are
yeah,
right shoes there. I told you that there were right shoes in the collection. I just didn't tell you the truth, which was that I didn't have, there's not complete pair for every player. There's not a matching set for every player. And that's
yeah.
kind of like what you get into with
Mhm,
every plant protein source, is that
mhm.
the propaganda will say that it's a complete protein because every essential amino acid is there. But
Yeah.
with every plant protein source, there is one or two or three of those
Mhm.
essentials that are in such low concentrations that they're useless.
Yeah. Over here, let me just finish it. Where did I go? It's this one. Yeah. So most plant proteins are incomplete. We just went through. So let's pretend that there are some that are complete, okay? It still does not work, and we'll see why. However, some plant protein foods such as quinoa and buckwheat are complete sources. Perfect, okay? Let's go and look at buckwheat, all right? So buckwheat, let's see what we're getting. If all of a sudden, again, we're using our imagination, we are living in a plant-based vegan utopia that is global, where this is the future, right? Perfect. So for one cup, okay, or let's do 100 grams, because I think everything else is in 100 grams. All right, so you're not getting any fat, first of all, with this protein source, okay? Almost none. So you're also not getting any fat-soluble vitamins when consuming this protein source, which you would with consuming any protein source that's animal. You're also getting carbohydrates with every single meal in an attempt to receive the protein that you require, because there's no more livestock or animal nutrition. You're getting every 20 grams here, you're only getting 3.4 grams. Okay. Let's see how much to even just get the 50 grams by the end of your day. There's no vitamin A. There's no vitamin B, really. Maybe B6 over here. C, non-existent. Maybe C, D, non-existent. K, non-existent. EPA, DHA, essential fatty acids, omega-3, non-existent. Okay, so you only have 3.4 grams. Let's look at a steak. Rice. I had steak somewhere, or else I'll have to pop it up. Sorry. I always like organize these, and then for some reason they're no longer organized. So 100 grams, let's go back just so it's fresh in our head. Buckwheats, fats, none, right? So this one. All right, fats here, 20 grams of fat. You're getting monounsaturated fat, which pretty much everyone acknowledges that that's what they call healthier fats. It has benefits, but I don't see any unhealthy benefit, unhealthiness with saturated. But anyways, mono, you have polyunsaturated fats. And then after, you have no carbohydrates, and you have a whopping 26 grams. So if I eat 100 grams of beef, I'm getting 26 grams of protein, complete protein with ample amounts of all essential amino acids, right? And then you go back again, back and forth to buckwheat. Buckwheat, you are getting 100 grams, you're getting 3.4. So do you realize how many cups, let's say, 1 cup, 2 cups, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, so roughly, I'd need 5 cups of buckwheat to approach, okay, less than 1 cup of animal food. So how are they going to explain? How about rice? 100 grams of rice compared to 100 grams of beef. Look at the protein. So what, am I going to, at the end of the day, am I going to consume roughly 25 cups or something? A literal bowl of seeds and grains and all sorts of oats and stuff like that? Is this what we're going to consume? And unable to do that without consuming vast amounts. If you're trying to get all of your protein intake solely with these plant sources, I can easily make the statement at least 300 grams per day, probably more. And of these, we were giving them the benefit. These are complete proteins. I don't care, even if it is beautiful, a wide variety of amino acids. We're comparing 25 grams a pop to 2.5 grams a pop. How is the world going to feed with all of this buckwheat, rice, soy, beans, legumes? How are we going to supply all of that protein, where you literally have 5 to 10 times more protein than you do with the same amount of grams, and we're not even talking about the nutrient deficiencies. That's impossible, JD. They're
Yes.
going the whole world would be planted with this crap, and we would still be deficient in protein and still deficient in micronutrients and still relying on industrial processes that are bad for the climate to fortify and supplement and mine and everything. The fact that the science has not been studied significantly because there's no financial gain in doing these types of studies. And in fact, if you're going against the narrative, it could be a gunshot to the head, a suicide to your career if you're within the scientific community and you start trying to publish things that are going against the narrative. Are you going to get subsidized for your next study? Are you going to get shunned? Are you going to get pushed out of your community? Blackballed 100%. So these people that believe in scientism, that the priests, and that science is the sole way of coming to truth, instead of saying science is a way of looking at the physical world and how it functions. It's great. But what about historical precedents, rationality, logic, common sense, other science that's saying the exact opposite? So, anything to add?
Well, just that, that's why veganism is so irresponsible. They do not research. They do not. They're intellectually dishonest with the people that they're trying to recruit into the cult. They're intellectually dishonest with themselves, like that guy that was in my comment section, the vegan, who said, and I said, I started listing all these things that he's ignorant of, and he said, "Well, I would rather be ignorant than a hypocrite." And when there are other human beings' life at stake, especially, I mean, it's bad enough when it's just like let's say like could be like an elderly person, or it could be like a beautiful 25-year-old woman, or it could be like little children. And these people, you're going to play games with these people's lives. You're going to wallow in ignorance so that you don't have to face the cognitive dissonance that comes along with realizing that the vegan cult is one huge misanthropic lie from one end to the other. It's just it's irresponsible. It's either with each individual who is part of that vegan cult. Some of them are misanthropes with malice, with malicious intentions. Some of them are naive. They're just naive, and they've been brainwashed by Walt Disney movies. They're inexperienced. They don't have any life experience. They don't have any knowledge of where their food comes from. And then there's that group that deep down they know better, but they're too afraid to face the facts. It makes them too uncomfortable to learn very much about these subjects. And this is what's so interesting to watch with that video that I was talking about, done by David Rams and Chris Hines, where they got together for over 2 hours, tried and failed to debunk Garland Farms. My performance on those last two debates, especially against Jeffrey and Allie, because that debate actually was able to be carried through, unlike the one that Nutrivore sabotaged.
Yeah, went nowhere.
But they spent well over 2 hours trying to debunk the things that I said, and all they did was dig a deeper hole. But what was interesting is that both of them confessed to have never researched the issue of crop deaths before. They had bought into this thing where a vegan is faced with all of the animals that get shot, all of the animals that get intentionally poisoned, trapped and gassed. They even use explosives to kill these animals underground. Kind of like Caddyshack. You remember that gopher yeah. They actually do that. That's real. They actually do use explosives that they put down in these gopher holes, and they blow them up to protect crops. And when they're faced with that, they've always had this coping mechanism where they laugh at those deaths and then they scream, "Crop deaths, though, ha 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 ha," and then they laugh about it.
Yeah.
Well, I've been rubbing it in their face for so long, and it's actually becoming mainstream knowledge about the scale of the gargantuan scale, the exponential scale of the animal torture, animal death associated with the factory crop agriculture that produces the items on the vegan menu. And at the very least, the ones with the very best intentions are naive. The ones with the worst intentions are misanthropic and right on par with, serial killers, people that actually want the human race to be wiped from the face of the planet. And, just the one word that most kindly represents the vegan cult is irresponsible. It's just irresponsible. If they were to actually succeed in passing the legislation that would violently force 7 billion people around the world to have to eat nothing but a vegan diet, they would cause illness, death, disease, suffering, birth defects. It would be a horrible, horrible scene, a horrible, horrible disaster.
Yeah.
And not only for human beings, but for the animals and the environment. So that's really what that's what fuels my efforts, is realizing that there are huge moneyed interests that are pushing this agenda for nefarious reasons. And then, of course, you've got a large percent of the population, the vegan population. They aren't animal rights activists. They're not activists at all. They've been duped into this cult. And that's why, 84% of all vegans will quit within 5 years, and half of them will quit within the first year, because it makes them feel horrible, makes them feel sick. They lose their teeth. Their teeth begin to break apart. Their skin loses its color. It loses its elasticity. They lose their libido. They get headaches, migraine type, intense headaches that last for days and days.
Anxiety,
they get
brain fog.
Yeah, they get leaky gut syndrome. They get IBS. They get ulcers in their colon. It goes just like that one lady, I don't remember her name, but she was a member of the Academy of, what's the name of the organization? The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. She's one of a few authors. She was like the lead author of this paper that was claiming that, a vegan diet is appropriate for all ages and all stages of life, and she died at 51.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the rumor going around is that she died of colon cancer, which is, I think, one of the things that she said that vegan diets would prevent.
It's impossible to get it.
Yeah. And I think that's what she died from. I don't know that to be a fact. That is the rumor, but how do we know? Because no one will disclose her cause of death. All they
Yeah.
will say is, that she died, surrounded by family. Usually when someone is surrounded by family when they die, that means that they've been fighting a prolonged illness.
Yeah. It's not a surprise kind of thing,
Right.
Uh, you see this screen here?
Yep.
Yeah. So it says, when choosing between plant and animal protein, it's important to factor in other nutrients that the food provides. So foods rich in protein can have widely ranging nutrient profiles. Certain sources of animal food contain high levels of heme iron. We have non-heme iron in the plant kingdom, and we can see certain populations such as India and stuff like that. The huge when compared to even the standard American diet, the huge deficiencies that occur in the vegetarian populations. And India is about 30% of people might be following vegetarian, vegan. It's not even the whole population, which most people kind of have the idea of. They talk about plants having phytonutrients. I call them phytochemicals. Um, they might have some certain benefits, but they're also not acknowledging the detriments. And on top of it, sometimes they'll be able to pull out that there's a benefit, often talking about antioxidants and stuff like that. But are they necessary? Like, the body does produce antioxidants. It's
Yeah.
fine. It does not need. And there's even a question if it's even able to be utilized in the body, which is
Yeah. Plant chemicals,
neutralized.
just like plant proteins and animal proteins are not equivalent.
Mhm.
Um, the just like the calcium in spinach, just not the same thing as the calcium in the animals, and also
Oxalate,
like iron. The iron that's in vegetables is not the same. So there's a lot of propaganda out there.
Yeah.
This article you're reading here, they don't cover any of the essential nutrients other than to put them in a bad light. Like
Hmm.
up there, it says saturated fat, higher levels of cholesterol.
Yeah.
Talking about animal products, as
Yeah.
if that's a bad thing. Saturated fat, it's a complete scam. The
Yeah.
cholesterol
We
myth.
I can pull the five recent um, studies on saturated fat. Let me screen share. Okay, it's already screen shared. Here, the five studies on saturated fat, time to retire the misc. You can go look further at the citations and stuff like that. But overall, saturated fat, people who reduced their saturated fat intake were just as likely to die from heart disease and other causes as those who ate more saturated fat.
Yeah.
Um, they were talking about replacing, so partially replacing saturated fat with unsaturated fat or nutrient dense carbohydrates may be. Don't forget that there's also these things like may be beneficial. They're not making statements that it is. And you guys can go check this out. But overall, saturated fat is not a problem. We also have dietary cholesterol, dietary cholesterol, health line. My dietary cholesterol does not matter. Okay. In fact, it is extremely beneficial. And then after, let's just go back to, yeah. So here it says, many used to believe that dietary cholesterol, like we're talking about like decades and decades and decades, like since the 50s, okay, cholesterol has been demonized. And this was used to reduce butter, to reduce eggs, to reduce cholesterol nutritional, which pushed away primarily milk, all animal foods. So many used to believe that dietary cholesterol was associated, and at best, again, it didn't say many believe that dietary cholesterol caused cardiovascular. At best, even for the last 60, 70 years, it has been associated. But the general population, as well as vegans and all the policies and guidelines that are created, treat this really as a cause. So while recent evidence suggests no significant link, see, the Institute of Medicine still recommends limiting dietary cholesterol. So the science is out, guys. Dietary cholesterol, not an issue at all, yet we're still having, and this will be what the population, these institutes, okay, that make the guidelines, the people that do biased articles that people read on their Google feeds, okay. Oh, it's like, yeah, this is not scientific, but we're still going to limit. Why though? I don't know, because we've always done it. 2016 meta-analysis suggests that eating more animal protein, especially that derived from processed red meat, may increase the risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. But watch this. However, research noted that they only found this link, and we're talking not about we're talking about processed even, okay? Research noted that they only found a link, that's just like an association, between animal protein and cardiovascular disease in people with at least one lifestyle risk factor: smoking, alcohol, being fat, and obese. So do you realize this is what the majority of these debates on the health impact of veganism compared to a standard American diet, which they often term as meat eaters, is that there's the healthy user bias that within the vegan vegetarian community, they are under the assumption that this is healthier, and therefore they also have many healthier habits. And over here on the meat eater section, the omnivore section, the standard American diet section, these people, who knows if they're smoking more, if there's alcohol. So the minute that we remove these comorbidities, there's actually zero link between processed meat and cardiovascular. That's why I'll use studies, but I'll always say this is crap. Both sides, it just confuses the public, and it trying to come to a truth only through these sciences, which are completely flawed, cannot control variables, are biased. Really, this is not physical science. This nutritional science should be taken really with a grain or a boulder of salt.
Well, you're familiar with the Shark Attack Ice Cream Association, right?
Yeah.
Studies have shown that there's an association between shark attacks and ice cream sales. And you know, in other words, there is an association there. And so you could say that eating ice cream causes shark attacks. Eating ice cream may cause shark attacks, but you look
Yes.
into it, you look into it reasonably and logically, and people being out on the beach in the summertime, it's hot. People are more people are eating ice cream on the beach or in those types of scenarios than they are like during the winter. People don't seek out ice cream. And so the fact that there's an association between shark attacks and ice cream is irrelevant. It's not the ice cream that's causing the shark attacks. It's the fact that the season and days that people spend on the hot beach enjoying the sun and the water are the days that people are eating more ice cream and in the water with the sharks. And so there's going to be, of course, there's going to be, an association, but it doesn't mean that one is causing the other.
Yeah, they have like years that Nicolas Cage publishes. The more that he publishes a movie with Nicolas, a movie with Nicolas Cage, when it comes out, it's associated with more drownings. So a year where there was more Nicolas Cage movies coming out, there was more drowning. Therefore, technically, it is a truth to say that there is an association. But there's an association with seed oil consumption increased decade per decade, and increases in suicide, increases in violence, increases in depression, increases in, you could say that as the seed oils increased, there was an increase in diabetes, an increase. So it's really easy to look over the last century as all of the sicknesses go up like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, well, we could say that between the 50s and the 30s, we had less and less fat consumption that was associated with more and more modern diseases. We could say higher carbohydrate consumption since the 50s, because we reduced it, has higher and higher. So all of these associations, again,
Yeah.
make tons of articles to go towards a future that compassionate and ethical and sustainable and better for the climate, better spiritually. Obviously, we are all aware, and we push this message on this channel, that you cannot achieve Christ consciousness without a complete elimination of animal food. All right, that you agree? We 100% support that message. That it's bad spiritually. That I'm being sarcastic, people. You never know. Over here, not to mention, so we're trying to develop a vegan utopia with proteins that are incomplete. At best, the complete ones just means there's very small amounts of certain essential ones. We see that the digestibility and the absorption is not the same. We see that if we're going to be trying to feed all of the people this, then we really no longer have animal fat sources. Therefore, we don't have any more natural sources in our diet of fat soluble vitamins. We have no active EPA and DHA. We realize that 100 grams of these buckwheats and stuff like that give 2.5 grams of protein. And we look at 100 grams roughly of animal food, that's 25 grams. Therefore, the idea that we could just eliminate the ruminant animals, maintain the crops, if not reduce drastically the amount of crops, and feed the whole world, even though 100 grams is 2.5 grams of protein. Therefore, you need pretty much 10 times the amount of grams of these buckwheats and rice and soy and stuff like that. So, and we have the issue as well as it being tied with high amounts of carbohydrates. And here is also, we mentioned many times in the past, but just briefly here, we have how to reduce anti-nutrients in foods. Now, nutrients in plants, okay, they're not always easily digested. Seems like a theme this evening. This is because plants, they also contain anti-nutrients. So besides not having all the amino acids to create an anabolic protein synthesis and muscle building, and this study that we're talking about speaks about muscle synthesis. Well, so is it just muscles, or do we just not have a study right now that's published or that we find about the ability to create new cells, the ability to create new hormones? That rate, is it the same? Ingesting plants versus animals. So there it's not only limited to muscle. We just haven't looked to see if there's even studies on that yet. These plant compounds that reduce the absorption of nutrients from the digestive tract, they are of particular concern in societies that base their diet largely on grain and legumes. So this will be a global utopia, okay? Because not society, the whole world will be living the vegan dream, okay? And they're saying this is a concern, guys. The amount of plant, which they call phytonutrients, which are phytochemical defense mechanisms will be a large concern because are plant compounds that reduce the body's ability to absorb essential nutrients. Well, that's not good. What happens to the elderly people that are not absorbing anything as well anymore? And on top of it, now they have to deal with anti-nutrients. And we're talking about like living on plants. Every single thing you're shoving in your trap is a plant because there's no more animal food. Do you think that the amount of exposure to anti-nutrients will remain the same, or would common sense say it might increase dramatically? Uh, they are not a major concern for most people, but many people a problem during periods of malnutrition or among people who base their diet almost solely on the grains and legumes. So this is a major concern, it says. However, anti-nutrients aren't always bad. Under some circumstances, anti-nutrients like phytate and tannins have some beneficial health effects. I don't agree with that. If they're going to say it's taking a small amount of poison builds resistance, what do they call that? Hermeneutical effect? Never mind. What is it when you put your body under a small amount of stress and that benefits? There's an actual word for that.
Yeah, I don't remember you build up a resistance to certain poisons if you give yourself little doses of it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the fact of the matter is that it's the propaganda is so prevalent now that you can't even go into, like, this health line. You've expressed several times that you like it because you can find the truth there, but you have to flesh it out. You have to weed through all of this propaganda that even they put out there, where they're making unsupported statements, claims about plants in the diet that cannot be substantiated. And the same thing is true when you're just reading straight up studies that are published in peer reviewed journals, where the first paragraph has got these claims that have no place in the study whatsoever. They're not supported by the data. They're just there's this general claims, these bullshit claims that are not supported, but they repeat them over and over and over and over again. You can never find the source of why they're saying that this plant is beneficial or that plant is beneficial, or this medicine is beneficial, or that, but they make these statements in the first paragraph of every study. And it's in every study every health related study that they put out. The first paragraph will have these bullshit statements that have absolutely nothing to do with the data that's been collected and is being presented.
What I like in Healthline is not, I wouldn't claim that it has truth. What I mean is it tells you where they're getting their claims, so over here. However, anti-nutrient, well, you know what? Then I think that's full of crap. So then you can at least follow, kind of like it might not be true, but at least they're citing where they're getting their claims as true or false or misinterpreted. So that's why I do kind of still like this, because at least, I mean, look,
Well, go back up.
every one of these claims, right or wrong, at least we can go. Let's say here we don't like that they said this. We think it's dead wrong. Well, at least we can go and analyze these three, see the claim here, and then refute it and say,
right. But look
on
at the paragraph. Look at the paragraph above that where it says
here.
They are not a major concern for most people.
Yeah.
They don't have any sources for that statement. There's no study that they're saying that, okay, go here and find out that they're not a major concern for most people. That is not sourced. It's an unsupported claim.
Yeah.
And it's not sourced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. Still overall, I still like Healthline because it's hard to get
better
information.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I like it, but it's not as bad as most.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Phytic acid, okay, most widely studied nutrients, mainly found seeds, grain, legumes. Phytic acid reduces the absorption of minerals from a food. These include iron, zinc, magnesium, and calcium. Tannins, they're a class of antioxidants, polyphenols, that may impair the digestion of various nutrients. See, antioxidant though,
Yeah, yeah. That's
it's good.
they've got these buzzwords that they've been conditioning people to have the warm and fuzzies about.
Polyphenols.
And it's the same thing they do with the oceanic dead zones. And these oceanic
Mm,
dead zones are caused by the industrial crop agriculture that produces the items on the vegan menu. But they'll
yeah,
try to spin these oceanic dead zones in a positive way because what's going into the oceans that's causing the hypoxia is which is the lack of oxygen available to the animals in the ocean. It kills all the life in the ocean. 95,000 square miles of three-dimensional, deep death from the top
mhm,
of the water all the way down to the seafloor. Death,
yeah,
death, 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 death. And what's causing it is these chemicals: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, these industrial grade synthetic and mined fertilizers. But what they'll call them is nutrients. The
yeah,
nutrients are making it into the ocean, causing oceanic dead zone. And so people hear that
yeah.
word nutrients and they're like, well, that's not really a bad thing, if you've got nutrients going into the ocean, because those animals in the ocean need nutrients.
Over here it says found in all plant foods, especially in seeds, legumes. Some lectins may be harmful in high amount. So, anyways, look, the point is that all of these things will be massively increased within our bodies. Okay, because we'll be dependent on all of this. You also have widely distributed among plants are the protease inhibitors. Protease is an enzyme, and these molecules inhibit. And this is again in seeds, grains, and legumes. They may interfere with protein digestion by inhibiting digestive enzymes. So not only are you ingesting plant protein that is not a complete protein, is not as digestible as animal protein, but on top of it being inferior in digestibility, you also have protease inhibitors that are further hindering and inhibiting protein digestion. And as we consume day in and day out this vegan global diet, this can become built up too. This can just be constantly a supply, leading to nutritional deficiencies. And of course, calcium oxalate, which I believe, I might be wrong, but is primarily when we're talking about plant calcium, I think it's just calcium oxalate. And they
Mhm.
talk about that in spinach and stuff like that. And the calcium bound to oxalate is, well, it's poorly absorbed.
Well, it's not only poorly absorbed, but that cannot be incorporated into healthy bones and teeth. In fact, look this up. You'll find out that there's a considerable amount of um, hardening of the arteries, the calcification of arteries that occurs. You talk to a vegan, you say, what's the plaque? What's arterial plaque made of? And they'll say cholesterol. But one of the major contributors, one of the major ingredients in arterial plaque is calcium. And in many cases, it's calcium oxalate that's
Mhm.
being built up on the arterial walls. Also, with arthritis, the calcium that's being deposited in people's finger joints and their knees is many times calcium oxalate. So
Mm.
they're eating spinach because they think that it's going to. And same thing is true with the brain. There's calcium deposits that are affecting people's brains, and it's associated with things like dementia and Alzheimer's. So you know it's like someone claimed the other day that we could eat spinach to replace meat. That's how ridiculous
Hey, it
the
works for
vegan cult.
Popeye.
Yeah. I think
See,
it was
the
olive oil.
propaganda started back then. They're like, let's make a cartoon where this guy just eats spinaches and has like big muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have like hormone disruptors, hormone blockers, and stuff like that. Phytoestrogen we hear often in soy. JD, we're at 1 hour. Do we actually go look at the article that motivated us to go and check this out, or should we?
Why don't we save it until next time, and we'll
Yeah, I think it's good. I just want to show this. Stop. You see this one? This is just the abstract there.
perspective vegan diets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
On the potential impact on muscle mass and strength. Consumers are increasingly encouraged to consume more plant-based foods. Jeffrey would be like, "What are you talking about? Everyone's being encouraged to eat meat, and the dairy industry, and they're heavily funded." That really got under my skin when Jeffrey's like playing stupid, as if like, "What? No way! Everyone's against us vegans. Nobody's pushing any plant-based. What do you think? What a geez."
Yeah, he even says things like, "You're using lots of generalities," even whenever it's. I mean, he's pulling that out of his butt because it doesn't even fit the situation. He's just like, "Oh, that's an ad hominem, and that's a generality." I don't even think he knows what some of the words that he's using mean.
No, they sound smart.
Yeah.
Consumers are increasingly encouraged to consume more plant-based foods and lower their consumption of foods from animal origin. Concurrently, older adults are to very loss. In the current perspective article, we discuss why it may not be preferred to consume a vegan diet for an older age. Our perspectives is based on the proposed lower bioavailability and functionality of proteins in a vegan diet due to the matrix of the whole food protein sources, the lower essential amino acid content, and specific EAA deficiencies in protein derived from plant-based foods. We propose that a vegan diet increases the risk of inadequate protein intake at an older age, and that current strategies to improve the anabolic properties of plants-based food are not feasible for many older adults. We provide recommendations to further research to substantiate the remaining knowledge gaps regarding the consequences of a vegan diet.
What is the name of this study?
This was a previous one. Here, just a minute. I'll just put it up so you can write it down if you'd like. Here, it's Oxford Academic Advances in Nutrition, an international review journal, and that's the title. You can check anyways the video after and just copy it if you didn't. Yeah, all right. So I think an hour, a little over an hour is not too bad. People tend to be less inclined to look at these like 2-3 hour videos. So you want to end it there, and we can find another time to go through in detail the actual study that we were planning on looking. But the main point of, I guess, today's live stream is using logic and rationality and common sense to imagine what kind of future it would be if the vegan utopia was set. There's a lot to talk about that, and a lot to try and kind of discuss where, how this would be initiated. But to me, it just seems like a massive, massive increase in monocropping, a a complete destruction of the soil, of the wildlife, of the environment, besides the soil, of diversities, the increased usage of all sorts of synthetic poisons on these plants. It's, I don't know. It would be the downfall of humanity. Not to mention that you're putting all of your nutrient reliability on crops, when the same people that are pushing veganism are trying to sound the climate emergency, the Greta syndrome. So you're okay, I'll buy into your climate disasters. You're talking about mass migrations of populations due to rising sea levels, our coast being flooded, and all sorts of weather events. And you really want to put this climate uncertainty, and you want to have everything relying on crops.
Yeah.
You don't think that's smart?
Just real quick, I'll cover, a couple of dead end roads because there's several
Okay.
in a vegan world. One is um, the industrial crop agriculture that produces the items on the vegan menu and that would
Mhm.
serve a vegan world
Yeah.
um, is causing erosion, wind erosion, and rain erosion at such a rate that all estimates are somewhere around 60 years of topsoil left
Hmm.
before we just don't have the topsoil to grow these plants anymore.
Yeah.
And also, without livestock manure available, then you'd be 100% reliant upon petroleum derived synthetic nitrogen, mined phosphorus, and mined potassium.
Yeah.
And we're working the industrial crop agriculture right now is consuming the phosphorus at such a rate right now, not to mention the increase that would be required to serve a vegan world.
Hmm.
But the phosphorus at today's rate is they're projecting a complete spending of all the world's reserved phosphorus within an 80-year period. So, we've got 60 years of topsoil left for a vegan world. We've got 80 years of phosphorus left for a vegan world. So, really, no matter which way you look at it, somewhere between, if they forced a vegan world on us, then we would be looking at a future that
Hmm.
would consist of maybe between 50 and 100 years, and then it would be a total disaster. It would be worldwide famine,
Yeah.
uh, just death as far as the eye could see.
What I see, especially I guess mostly in the West, is a complete dismantling of every single, like a purposeful collapse of all our systems, for the Great Reset. Here is something that's relevant about phosphorus. When you started talking to me about phosphorus, all right. Okay, so we have phosphorus, right? Like you just said, humanity is flushing away the element, right? Farmers are facing a phosphorus crisis. Okay. Meanwhile, meet the genetically engineered pig with earth-friendly poop. Yep. Want me to
I
stop?
was just wondering how long you're going to be.
We already said we're going to stop probably within 5-10 minutes. So here we're genetically engineering pigs for what? Canada, Trudeau. Now, I'm really proud to be a Canadian. We're doing awesome. Canada has approved for limited production a genetically engineered, environmentally friendly pig. The EnviroPig has been genetically modified in such a manner that its urine and its feces contain, yes, 65% less phosphorus. Phosphorus crisis. Less
Right.
phosphorus in manure. Like you can't make this stuff up, man.
Yeah.
It's so
Everything that
disgusting.
everything that we require to be healthy, whether it's cholesterol or saturated fat or phosphorus or carbon, every life form on this earth is carbon based, and there's a war on carbon.
Mhm.
What do plants breathe?
Yeah,
What do they require? They
yeah,
require carbon dioxide, and there's a war on carbon dioxide.
yep,
You know, everything that is good has been demonized,
yeah,
and most people are so wrapped up in their favorite sports team, their favorite sitcom, their favorite pop culture. Is it Lady Gaga? Is
have
it,
games.
who knows what it is? But people are thinking about titty bopper bullshit, and we're facing this great reset. This is serious business. These people are looking to harm us,
Enslave
and
us.
the vegan cult is a tool that's being used to help facilitate this.
Yep, 100% agree. You want to end on that?
Yep.
All right, JD. Take care. Talk
All right,
soon.
Jason. Thanks. Enjoyed it. Bye.
Everybody show up. Crucible Sunday, 9 Eastern.
The Crucible tomorrow, Sunday, the 12th, March the 12th, 2023, 9 p.m. Eastern. I will be debating Jeffrey Phillips, and I'm sure he'll be coached by David Rams, Chris Hines,
Yeah.
Joey Carbstrong, and the rest of them.
Can you do me a favor? And when they're trying to do these little tactics to paralyze the conversation, just keep on going through the information you want to present. Don't even acknowledge it. It's like if they're gonna pose like blah 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 blah, your turn to talk, and just continue on your monologue. Because don't expect to be honest, don't expect any honest debate. That first one with Jeffrey, you had a bunch of noobs that were caught off guard. But after that last debate, they're just going to continue doing that. So it's
Well,
like,
you just have to
forget
keep it.
about it. Just
What you have to keep in mind is that there's always going to be an opportunity to present that information. And going on these debate channels and debating these vegans, sometimes what's the best thing you can do is let them make a fool out of themselves.
mhm,
Let them show everyone uh, their let them display their malice to the world, and then people, I think I've had like 200 just in just since that last one, like 200 more subscribers. So
mhm,
these people are subscribing, and then we go on our channels, and that is the environment where we can make our case without constantly being interrupted by some animal rights activist who's intellectually honest.
yeah,
So I understand your perspective that you want me to do it a different way. I'm
yeah,
doing it my way because that's the way that I think works.
mhm,
If I have an opportunity to allow a vegan to make a total ass of himself, then
yeah,
I'm going to allow that to happen. I'm going to encourage them to happen. If that means I have to forego getting the actual information out that day, because the fact of the matter is that is not the ideal environment for people to absorb that information.
yeah,
That's actually a better environment for them to absorb the fact that these vegans are misanthropes who are looking to harm and are intellectually dishonest. And if a debate turns into a learning experience for the public to see how intellectually dishonest they are, and that's the lesson that they learn, that in itself is extremely valuable. And then we get them over on your channel or over on my channel, and then we can actually speak uninterrupted and get that point across. But in my view, these debates, if they turn into a shit show where vegans are distracting, the vegans are derailing, then that is not the best environment to, just like you say, plow through the information, because people are not listening to the information. They're being whipped up by the drama of it all. They're not focused on what I'm saying. What they're focused on is the sensationalism, the drama of this debate, the argument between the vegan and the meat farmer. So I understand what you're saying. I know that you want that information out there, Jason,
Mhm.
but I don't agree with you that it's best to just plow through, because all that will happen is that the information comes out in segments, and it's the beginning of the segment of information is preluded by this vegan who's trying to distract, and then it's suffixed with the vegan again trying to distract and derail. So I do not see on the other hand, if
Fair
a
enough.
debate if a debate is being if the vegan is actually debating the issue at hand, and it's an environment for learning, then I totally agree. Plow through with the information. But if it turns into a situation where the vegan is trying to sabotage the debate, then I am going to allow that to be
Yeah,
the
sure.
subject.
Fair enough. I understand. I mean, for me, like looking at debates on other topics and stuff. I mean, there's various formats. What I like, most of them were religious debates, but they had their opening, uh, but it was an opening presentation. They were given a good 15 minutes each to make a presentation, and then after you could have the back and forths that I've seen on the Crucible. But there's various formats, and there are formats where you can present a presentation, your opening thing, you cut to the point to get as much as you can out there, and then after the discussion can continue, and people can refute and do whatever you want. But I just don't see why the format can't be that each of you present independent of what's going to happen after this. People see both sides, and then there becomes, then after that, I could care less. It could just be 5 minutes each, or it could be what seems to be, no, you guys just talk both together. What about the share screening? Are you going to push for that, or not even that?
No, I talked to Andrew about that. He said that's a go.
Good, yeah. Yeah, because like you had mentioned, like, yeah, most people won't be able to really read or see it, but it doesn't matter.
Well, I
As
didn't
long as
say that.
people,
What I said
yeah,
that is,
because I can see it good.
how on your phone you can put
Yeah,
your fingers on the screen and zoom in like that.
yeah,
I can do that with the touchpad on my laptop. So I
yeah,
can zoom the whatever page um, in so that people can actually see it and becomes a useful tool.
yeah.
I don't know why you don't use that. Does your touchpad not have that feature on your
Uh,
laptop?
I might not know. It probably does. I just don't know. I've just never tried to figure out how to do it. I've seen it, like even your videos where it goes like almost like a zoom as slowly as you're
Yeah,
speaking
so
there.
what I'm
I like
doing
that.
there is I'm touching my touchpad and I'm using that
Mhm.
gesture that zooms in. I think that your touchpad will do the same thing, but many times whenever when you're showing me something on the screen, I'll actually have to go to my laptop
Yeah,
and zoom in using that feature on the
mhm,
StreamYard page that's open so that
yeah,
I can read the thing that you're showing me. Otherwise, I can't read it. It's the print is too tiny
understood.
and I can't see it. So it can actually become, if you don't make it readable and discernible to the audience without having to do that, because not everyone knows that they can do that. So they're
Then
watching
they're
it.
not listening and they're
Yeah,
just trying to do this. Yeah,
right.
fair enough. Yeah, like what is good, let's say, when as if you're going to be doing a lot more debates, is like I said, building PowerPoints where you could scroll through and have them popped up. Like here's the study, and then all of a sudden the next three images can be a zoomed up, which is even cooler because you don't have to read the whole study. You can kind of go through here's where I'm getting the source, and then punch up a zoomed out screenshot. But But
Yeah.
anyways, no problem. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, could you shamefully plug me to say that a lot of hours and hours of your content in a way of you speaking on these topics are as well available on my channel.
I'll try my best to,
Like I, don't- I
I'll,
like I don't want to give you the impression that I'm trying to like hang on your like oh, this is beneficial, I'm trying to manipulate you or anything, but like that's why I'm admitting, I'm like, if you can plug me in, because you know you're speaking at length, hours at it, like hours and hours of stuff. So if people could come to both of ours, since we're going to be back and forth collaborating and stuff like that, it would be good. um, it would be good for the message, and ambitiously it would be good for me too.
yeah, I get
All
that.
right. All right. So that's it. End of stream. Talk soon, JD.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. Enjoyed it.
Yeah.